everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Little Legends podcast. I am Blevins. With me, as always, is Boop. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going? I think it's like
Had to
really
make up for
important
some
for
last
us.
time.
Yeah. I think it's really important for us to not get any new fans whatsoever.
Yes.
as time goes on.
That is correct.
But we got some nice harmonies on that one. That's how
We
together
did.
we are. Yeah.
I still think I've got more in the tank. I think I could go longer than that. Physically, I think I could go longer.
One day, see who can go longer. Oh my God! Never mind.
Starting back over, we've got a special episode today we're titling Casters and Chairs talking about Chosens and drinking coffee, because we are in the early AM on a Thursday morning.
Yeah, can you tell?
I feel like we haven't missed a beat. For those of you who are new, this is a Teamfight Tactics show. We are going to be talking about Teamfight Tactics at some point, I swear. But you know, this is a more laid back, a little more laid back, a little more cash show.
We don't even finish our words here.
No, we don't even finish our words. Dumbest bit I've ever done. We have got a decent amount to talk about. I did not know where I was going to go when I started saying we. There's been a lot that's happened. The new patch 10.21 is out now, and I've already just today heard the full gambit of this is the worst patch that's ever happened, and they've ruined a lot of what was good in set 4. And I've also heard this is a super fun patch, and I feel nostalgic I feel nostalgic to the old set. So that is arguably a good thing. Yeah, Eric Thomas in chat is saying it's super fun. I love it. I've already heard the opposite of that, which is really funny. So, I mean, maybe that's a good thing. They did change. Well, they changed a lot of the items, and they changed a lot of items. They changed some champs, and they changed the reroll mechanic that was unique to set 4. They reverted that. So if you're unfamiliar, what it used to be was if you had let's say an Elise in your shop and you didn't want Elise, you didn't buy it. When you hit reroll, or the next time the shop rerolled, whether it was you hit reroll or the next round started, there was a 0% chance that there was going to be a regular Elise. Now there could still be a Chosen that's kind of outside of those rules, but you couldn't get an Elise. So essentially you can pseudo manipulate your rolls to give you better chances of getting the champions that you want. And now they reverted that. And Boop, I know you've been obviously super dialed in lately with TFT, with casting, and seeing the highest levels of tournament play. What are your thoughts on this change, specifically the reroll change, and where it's going to go? Is this a good thing in your mind, bad thing? What do you think?
So I think the term here that we all need to kind of really think about when it comes to this reroll mechanic was skill expression, right? And I guess the ceiling as well, where when a pro player learns how to min and max something, they're obviously going to be able to take advantage of systems.
Yes.
Right. And I think this was a system that, if people were really good at the game, was a little too easy to take advantage of. Right. I think it dropped the skill ceiling to provide the fantasy of newer players hitting tier 3 units more frequently, without them knowing exactly why, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Right. So plus with the Chosen mechanic, getting a 3-star Chosen, which I think was something that they wanted people to do. That's all just hearsay for me. Was just way too easy, right? Especially if like there are some Chosens like Yasuo who can carry you through late or get you to the late game.
Yep.
Right. So that can be really, really difficult. So I understand the trade-off, but I think the real question is it worth taking away that wonderful feeling of 3-starring a unit, or just having that happen less often, So the competitive integrity at higher levels can remain. I think that's
Hmm.
really where the debate stands,
Yeah.
right? Is this was definitely a change for people who was just starting out on the game.
Hmm.
This was something that made the game a lot more friendly and I think a lot easier to pick up,
Yep.
right? And you could feel the power levels of 3-starred units way quicker, and hopefully learn the game a little bit better. But now
Yeah.
that that's off, it doesn't really affect the high level players all that much because they'll just play like they did before. But
Right.
the players that are newer and coming in aren't going to maybe even understand why they're not hitting their 3 tiered units anymore.
Right.
Right. Plus, it's actually like, I don't know if you've played any games since the patch went live, but it's actually like it can be a while before you 3-star a unit. But basically, that change is more of a change to it's also a change to balance chosens and certain
Mm,
chosens
yeah.
um around it too, like Yasuo,
Right.
like some of like the early mage chosen. So it's just not like incredibly easy to 3-star them and get a top 4, right?
Yeah. It is a really, it's a delicate balance because you want chosens to feel impactful. You want, and it's a balancing of the newer player or the inexperienced player or the, I'm gonna say mobile player, in the sense that it's someone that's not, on every website watching every stream, that's looking at all the patch notes, because the patch notes aren't in the game, right? That's the thing that for me, I find myself taking for granted, is that people read patch notes or know the patch notes or watch extra content on the game. That's not the case for everyone, right? Some people are just playing this as a mobile game and don't even know or frankly care about the other stuff that's going on. Some people might not even know that it's a League of Legends thing. Like, that's possible. And all these changes that are happening are kind of just happening. And like you said, Boop, if you're used to, you know, if you're used to getting your chosen 3-starred at roughly a certain time, and now you're not, and even if you're not necessarily connecting those two things, what's likely happening is that you're doing worse than you were before, if that was your
Well,
strategy.
and it's an economy thing too, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to be rolling more often. And so you're going to have to use your money a little bit better now on. That's probably the
Hmm.
change that I think a lot of beginner players will have the most issues with is they'll
Right.
realize that they're poor um, way quicker without hitting their units,
It's the
right?
same thing that happened to millennials, having to realize that they're poor.
I mean, we killed so many industries. What are we supposed to
It's true.
do?
It's
Where are
true.
we going to work if we've killed every industry? But
I've still
the
got 4 to 5 more years of experience to get before I can get that introductory position.
uh-huh. And then we yeah, so I think it's going to really push economy to the forefront a little bit more. I think
Hmm.
we might see a little bit more people saving their econ a little longer, having a little bit more like dramatic roll downs,
Hmm.
right? As a viewer experience is actually going to be pretty nice, right?
Right.
When like we're casting Fight Night, for example, and we're watching Treebeard or Sphinx or Loco Doco, right? And they start rolling, and it's pretty, you're pretty positive they're gonna tier 3 their, Jack's chosen or something like that.
Right.
Then there's no suspense,
Right.
right? There and
It's
as a
just another
viewer,
exercise they're going through.
yeah, as a viewer that matters, but as a player, I think that matters too,
Hmm.
right? In terms of enjoying the game and moving forward a little bit harder so it doesn't turn into, color by numbers.
Right. Yeah. Well, it also, it changes the skill expression too, of you're not guaranteed to get your chosen 3-starred anymore, right? When you have X
Hmm.
amount of gold. So now it's the skill expression is weighing whether it's worth it to go for that or not. And sometimes you hit it, sometimes you don't now, or maybe you have to decide if you want to bank an extra 20 gold before you roll down, or wait 2 rounds, or whatever. Like there's different levels of skill expression. So I think it's certainly still there. I always thought I think one of the arguments for taking it out too was it kind of wasn't a really it wasn't necessarily an intuitive thing that was happening in the game. So it's not like if I'm coming in with no context other than I know how to play the game, when I hit the reroll button, I'm not naturally assuming that I'm gonna not see those again if I understand how the pool works. It's like, okay, you get a pack of cards. When I hit reroll, I throw that pack of cards back into the random pool and get spit out a new pack of cards of all of those. There's not anything that's making me think like, oh, when I hit reroll, I'm taking this pack of cards, I'm putting them on the side, drawing a new pack, and then they're getting shuffled back in. And I guess maybe you could argue that either of those two systems is kind of abstract anyway, and maybe we could just adopt one or the other. And maybe that's what they're doing, but they're adopting the original way. So, I don't know. I liked the original change going into set 4. I really liked that change. And it felt good as a more casual player, but I could see it not being. I could see it being overall not that great. And making the games more deterministic, especially at higher levels or when there's skill disparity. I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I think we've belabored the point at this point, but
yeah,
it's going to be interesting. I think this doesn't necessarily affect pro play all that much, right? But that's what we analyze and look at, right? Because the thing about pro players is they'll probably tier 3 their units anyway. They know how.
right. Or they'll
they know
do
how to
the thing that's
manipulate.
better than that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so like they're going to adjust. But in terms of like gold, even plat and below, I think there's going to be a little bit of a, oh yeah, this is how it used to be.
Right. I need to actually save my gold and use it
Yeah,
sparingly.
exactly. I can't roll to 0 gold anymore.
Right.
Right. It's
You never should
that'll
be doing
be
that.
that'll be the change. Actually, there was a period of time where you would spend all your money at level 7.
Really? All of it? Down
Yeah,
to 0?
like that was like really, really early on.
Interesting. Well, yeah, we won't dive any deeper into that because I think that's sort of we covered that pretty well. Let us know what you think in the comments below or in the Discord, discord.me/Little Legends Podcast. The other couple of changes that I felt were pretty big. Now there were some champ changes. I know Ari got a little bit of a nerf so that she's not just the tank option and also a carry. Got a little bit of a health reduction. Jin got 3-star. Actually, it was kind of a 4-cost wide change to 3-star 4 costs, and that having them not be auto wins like they were before. Do you have any thoughts on that like generic change overall for 4-cost champs getting the 3-star nerf?
I think that is fine. But it's funny because with the system changes, I don't know. You know what I mean? Right? So they're not going to happen as frequently. So it's almost like a double duty.
Mm-hmm.
Duty.
And scene.
I always notice when someone says like, "I will do that," or do
I
do
that? As well, because you don't need to say the second do. You can just say the first one in it. Actually,
anyway,
the same point. But go on.
The fantasy of 3-star 4 costs is really fun, right? Like seeing an Ari blow up a team is fantasy, right?
Yes.
Seeing some of our other 4 costs bring it in. I mean, like even 4 cost, even like 3-starred Aatrox is fun to watch.
Yeah.
Right. As he like just brings in the entire backline into you. But they are just really strong. Like I don't think the only like if you 3-star this unit, you win. In my opinion, should be 5-cost units.
I agree.
Right? There shouldn't be a ton of counterplay to 3-star 4-cost units, but there needs to be like an inch of rock paper scissors allowed for them.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to go to the point where like remember Akali back in set 1, right? Where if you just got a 3-star Akali, you won.
Yeah.
Right. 4 stars, I think, should still require items to be able to carry an entire team.
4 stars or 4 cost? Oh, okay.
The 4s. And then 3-star 5-cost units don't necessarily need those items, in my opinion, to carry if they're 3-star.
I wouldn't even care if 3-star 5-cost units like changed inherently and were like uber power, like just actual win the game effectively almost no matter what. I wouldn't care because there's so like I still to this day have never gotten a 3-star 5-cost unit.
Yep, same.
I've
Me
never
neither.
had one,
But
and I've
everyone on
only
Reddit
seen it
seems to
like
have
twice.
one.
I mean, I've only ever seen it happen in the wild. I think once. I mean, I've seen people post about it, but I've gotten close. I've never actually gotten it. Never actually gotten the
Yeah,
3-star
I was
5
one
cost.
lease in away. That's the closest I've ever been.
I think I was. What did I have? Um, I don't even remember what champ it was. Oh, it was Asol from set 3. It was set 3 Asol. I almost had a 3-star. I was one away, I think. Or I was effectively one away because I had a Nico's. I just needed to find one more, and I had a Nico to make the 3-star, but didn't get there. I won before I. That's the problem is that when you like it's a catch-22 because if you have all that extra gold, you're either losing because you're throwing because you have 30 gold on your bench, or you're winning because you have 30 gold on your bench and you don't need it. So there's that. The other big changes are to Locket, to Static
Oh,
Shiv, and to Zeke's Herald. All got
lucky that one's okay.
yeah, Zeke's Herald got a pretty big buff to the attack speed it provides, but Locket just got massive shield upgrades to it, and Static Shiv got a ton of damage
Massive
for
damage
the
upgrade.
we got a massive true damage upgrade on the shielded and CC'd units.
Yeah, let me read you a little statistic real quick.
Yeah.
Are you ready? Locket of the Iron Solari Shield going from 250, 300, 375, remember that number, to
Mm-hmm.
500.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now level 1 Locket is 350. So
Okay.
level
Okay.
1 Locket is only 25 less shielding than tier 3 Locket was.
Yep.
That's what you call a power spike,
A
my
glow up,
friends.
if you
And
will.
so, yeah, that is the glow up. That means like in terms of value out on a tier 1 unit, that's huge,
Massive.
right? And so like if you like basically if you like stack keeper with locket, I mean that shielding is insane, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we shall see. And locket has always been kind of like one of those items like if you have you put it on there, you'll get it on a carousel or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you now have an excuse to. It's an early game item now, right? You can 100
Yeah.
extra shielding at level 1 with just 4 units is a lot of shielding, especially for some
Yeah.
of our tankier units. And then the other one is static shiv damage is going down by 10, 85 to 75. You're like, okay, here's the compensation buff. Static shiv
Yeah.
bonus damage going from, and this is for CC targets, going to 85 to 175.
Wow.
That's 90 more damage after
Yeah.
3 auto attacks.
That's pretty insane. Yeah, I just think back to Locket has always been a feast or famine item. It's almost always been either you are always building it and you're actively searching for those components early on, or it's unusable or it's
Mm.
unbuildable. You never want to commit to building it. You never want to commit early to building it. You would make it if you had the items left over. But like,
Yeah.
I remember back in set 1, it was busted with like Ninja, like when Ninja Assassin was insanely good. It was really good. And then it was also really good with Berserkers in set 2. Never really had a chance, and it never really had its time to shine in set 3, if I recall correctly. I don't recall it ever being
Not
a
really. They
top
tried
item.
like once or twice to kind of bring it in, but yeah, those like buffed items, the Locket and the Zeeks
Mm-hmm.
specifically, were a little underwhelming. Zeeks in this particular set is kind of nice because there's a lot of auto attacking champions just in
Mm-hmm.
general, right?
Yeah.
So Zeeks you might find in some of your Ash Brawler comps or some of your
Shades even.
sharpshooter
Could
comps.
be shades, right?
Yeah, you do Zeeks with shades.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of attack speed.
Yeah.
Plus, it's attack damage too, right? So there's going to be a little bit more value. But the one that I think we're really going to be seeing a lot of is Static Shiv. Anyone who can proc the bonus damage consistently, or any comp that's going to be able to proc the bonus damage consistently, is going to be very successful.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I think that's true. I like the fact that static. I like when Static Shiv is a playable item because it's usually a little bit more niche. It's not something that you just jam on any AD carry like an Infinity Edge would be, or even Last Whisper at times would be, where it's just like, okay, just put this on your AD carry and you don't care. You really want more of a specific champ to be using Static Shiv. Now, does each jump of Sharpshooter count as an attack for Static Shiv like it does for Shojin? Because that would be, I feel like that's broken if it is.
I'm not sure. I haven't tested that.
Because that's how it works with Shojin, right? It's every time, like each jump counts as an attack for Shojin, for Spear, right?
And the other thing about Shiv that people don't, I think about a lot of the time is how this is actually a buff against Shade. Because you don't need to attack the Shade directly anymore to do damage to it.
Right. That's true.
And if you are able to get the 175 proc on the Shade unit, that's a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of working around the 3 auto attack stealth with Static Shiv a little bit, providing a little bit more counterplay to Shades, who I think was probably the most complained about comp in the last patch.
Yeah, Kayn is really been a menace.
Kayn and Zed specifically. And it's funny because there's some other, buffs in here. Chalice of Power getting buffed, 30 to 40. Gargoyle Stoneplate getting buffed, per enemy 12 to 15, right? Those are all items that have been strong in the past, but are getting brought up once again. But like even the Gargoyle, like think about this is how Shiv interacts with these other items too, right? Because you get max Gargoyle Stoneplate stats, you play it perfectly, but someone on the other team has a Shiv and jokes on you, 175 damage. Right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't
unmitigatable,
matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter what your, so and so is. Plus, Ludens now does more damage to shielding, and I think that's what they try to do as a counter to some of our shielding changes that we've seen. But its base damage is 180, right? To whoever it hits around it, where Static Shiv is going to proc probably more frequently with a fast auto attacker at 175.
Yeah.
Right? So it's pretty hard. Also, the ZZ Rot changes aren't terrible, by the way.
I mean, it seems like they're pretty good, actually. Like,
the
taunting
Portal
everything.
Attack damage going from 70 to 150. Basically, it seems like they're taking some of these less popular items and incentivizing you to build them earlier, rather than like kind of being like, I have these 2 components now, I have to build this. They pretty much want to make it so every item that you make is an intentional choice, even if it's not the best choice.
Yeah, I think that's a cool goal to have, is like, okay, Locket might not be the most powerful item at, end game, but it can help you get there very well, and the lack of end game item that you have can be made up for in earlier advantage. I think that's sort of what they're going for.
You don't have to build it on your carry either, right? So you can have someone else hold those items for you, and that's going to be a lot easier to like build out your carry, right? So you can have your 3 lockets plus your carry next to each other, and everyone's happy.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if because like that goal is a cool one to go for from the dev team, but it seems like it's tough to walk that balance. So it's tough to find any sort of balance in these types of games anyway. So, but it seems like an item like Locket traditionally has been feast or famine, where it's like, okay, well, we made Locket a more viable early game option, and now it also scales a little bit better in the late game. It's like, instead of it, okay, sometimes I'm going to build a Locket intentionally, it's Locket is always the best choice early game, and now it also has better late game potential, and that advantage is always better. And maybe that's just because we're watching high-level play so much, whether it's streamers or pro players, and maybe that's okay. It just seems like that always trickles down regardless of like the min-maxing trickles down whether or not like, random, plat scrub like me is
Yeah.
actually figuring that out on their own. If I see Soju and Milk doing it every time and Sphinx and Raid, it's like I'm going to do it anyway, right? Like,
Yeah.
but
Sphinx has a very cursed image on his Twitter right now. I don't know if you saw it earlier
no,
about
I didn't
the
see it.
comps that are currently popular. Excuse me, comp.
Which,
No plural.
which comp is it?
It's a Divine.
Oh, right, Divine. That's a big one that we need to talk about. But actually, you reminded me, Boop.
Oh yeah,
Sphinxy
we should definitely talk
Boy.
about that. Yeah.
Sphinxy Boy took down Fight Night last week.
Okay, so this was actually pretty crazy. So Sphinx, I ended up looking up, it did end up breaking the record for largest victory.
Really? That's
He was
awesome.
11 points ahead of second place. So he was like a full lobby win away from even being threatened out of the first place.
Wow.
And the other thing that was really interesting about this is
Mhm.
twofold. He made 2 transitions in the 4 lobbies that were amazing. Number 1 was he got honestly probably one of the worst first 4 items I have ever seen someone get, and actually transitioned that into a second place.
Wow.
A little bit later, and the whole Twitch chat was so like, I cannot believe he was able to pull this off. Sphinx is so good at thinking like 10 rounds ahead, right? And it definitely showed because this, I mean, it was Treebeard, it was Loco Doka. I mean, it was so many well-known TFT names. I believe Soju was there too.
Yes.
And
Yep.
Sphinx demolished them. I mean, he had by far the best and I think biggest grasp of the meta at that time, not in terms of what to run, but in how fluid it could be in that moment, right? Because Loco Doco ran duelists all 4 lobbies and got third, right? Sphinx had to work for that record, and I finally got to interview him, and it just kind of sounds like his mental's in a better place. He can definitely tilt like me.
Sphinx does.
If
He does tilt for sure.
Yeah, if like the day is going bad or
Mhm.
something, he's definitely, I call him like a snowball player, right? He'll
Yeah.
snowball either direction, but
Right.
he could still go the wrong way,
Right.
right? And I think it was kind of a really, really nice elevation for him with everybody else to be that successful that day. Mad props, man.
Yeah.
That was I've casted 20, 25 fight nights at this point, right? And that was arguably one of the most impressive performances I have seen. And it is really cool to be able to say that about, a friend of the show like
Yeah.
Sphinx.
Good old Sphinxy Boy taking it down. Finally got it. Congrats out to Sphinx. Yeah, and I think it's been a long time coming. I mean, I think he's gotten a couple of thirds. I don't know if he's gotten a second before. And he's had a couple of tanked fight nights, and
Always the bridesmaid, never the
yeah,
bride.
right.
Sphinx. And finally someone got
taking it
down
home.
on their knee. Yeah,
Finally caught the bouquet and then dunked it. So yeah, congrats to Sphinxy Boy on that one. But I buried the lead here, Boop. Divines. Arguably the biggest change in the patch was essentially a rework to Divine. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So Divine, rework. Upon attacking 6 times or dropping below 50% health, Divine units remove all crowd control and ascend, taking 66%, such a weird number, reduced damage and dealing 50% bonus true damage for the duration of the ascension. So, like, whenever I see numbers like 66, I just imagine a dev going, okay, 60? Don't like that. 61? No, still 62%? Nope, still need to go higher, and they go one by one. But anyway, 2 divine is 4 seconds.
43%?
Divine.
No. 44.
Yeah. 4 divine is 6 seconds. 6 divine is 9 seconds, and 8 divine is 13 seconds.
Yeah, it is definitely interesting. I do like the fact that they changed divine in general, because it did feel not super impactful.
Underwhelming.
It felt underwhelming in terms of power level. It also kind of felt, and I'm sure that the units did do an animation of some sort, but I just never really caught it. It never really felt like they were actually uh ascended or divine or whatever you want to call it. Um maybe I
The
just didn't play the
fantasy.
comps enough. Yeah, it just felt like, okay, I know there's a buff that's going on this Warwick kind of, but I don't know. You know, maybe it's there. Warwick is really good. I get that. I just you know, I don't know if it has anything to do with divine or not. Um but yeah, I mean, right now it seems like they may have over pushed, over tweaked the numbers on divine, because taking it's 66% reduced, or are they taking are they only taking 66? Is it a third reduced or is it two-thirds reduced? I guess is the question.
2/3
Yeah,
reduced.
so that's like, I mean, taking two-thirds less damage, only taking one-third of the damage that you're supposed to be getting, it's probably pretty good. And like they're getting it's like Elderwood in a sense, right? Where like, no, is Elderwood good for defense? Yes. Is Elderwood good for offense? Yes. Is it good for magic? Yes. Is it good for attack? Yes. It's like, okay, so just put in as many Elderwoods as you can, because no matter what the unit is, it's getting something because you get all of the stats, right? That's kind of what this
Mhm.
feels like as well, where it's like it's not like like Darkstar last set where like, yeah, you can have tank Darkstar, but like it's not you're not really getting much buff. You're not really getting much of a buff from the Darkstar, but like now
Yeah.
it's like, oh well, your tanks are also taking two-thirds less damage. Your carries are taking two-thirds less damage. They're doing more damage. It seems like, I don't know. What do you think about that, Boop? The like, we're just gonna give all the stats to this synergy, and like you just get generically better overall when you hit the synergy.
You know me, I hate that. Right?
I
You knew
maybe
that.
set you up
Oh,
for that one.
you found the right pieces. Congratulations. Here's 66% reduced damage.
Yeah,
And I think that's why stuff like this feels a little worse than when like Fortune is good or something like that.
Fortune
Because
is at
like,
least cool.
yeah,
And you're
or
like taking a step. It's like a step removed from
or
overpowered,
even like
right?
duelist, right? Because you've got like attack speed and there's like more to think about Yasuo with his positioning and
Mm-hmm.
blah, 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 blah. But it's actually really funny because Divine Duelist is very good right
I would
now.
imagine
But
so.
yeah, and it's not just that. The divine units that you can have are all very strong when they're tanky, right? So
Mm-hmm.
all the way from 1 cost to 5 cost. So like you think about a divine 1 cost unit, it's Wukong,
Bonk.
right? Yeah, Bonky Kong, right? 66% reduced damage, already moderately tanky, and bonus damage, right? And so you
It's right into
got
it.
4 seconds at the beginning, so that's probably 2 ultimates. That's at least 2 units dead,
Yep.
right? You're probably going to be seeing Divine as a 4 pack a lot of the time, because like in the late game, the difference between 6 and 9, nice, is not really that much
Mm-hmm.
in terms of seconds, especially since they don't ascend right away, right?
Right.
Since they're already ascending below 50% health, at 9 seconds versus 6 seconds, I don't think is that big of a change.
Mm-hmm.
But when you think about someone like Lee Sin, right, and you think about less damage, all of a sudden that just means more ults,
Right.
right? And the true
Yeah!
damage.
I
Hiya!
love
Yeah.
I love the noise that Lisa makes. It's so like over the top. I love it.
But the other thing that people don't think about sometimes with these changes is the spatula, right? So
Mm-hmm.
now you can give anyone this trait, right? Give Set a divine trait. Anyone who's going to really benefit from taking less damage
Right.
and doing more, right? You're going to be able, sort of the divine is going to become a little bit more popular if you're unable to like finish your
Yeah.
package, or if you're committing to the divine build, which a lot of people
Yeah.
seem to
Or if
be
you just
doing.
want to
Because
give generic stats to anyone, right?
yeah, because like
Like
this is the thing. Lux is a great unit, right?
Mhm.
People haven't really been using her because she just doesn't really fit into anything.
Right.
Divine was underwhelming. Dazzler is
Dazzler.
just one of the harder splashes to put in. You'll
Mhm.
get it into the late game, right? But Lux is in like every single comp now.
Yeah.
Because again, you ascend, you Q, you can maybe even do true damage to the entire team. But it's not just that. You've got Lee Sin, you've got Irelia, who will disarm your entire squad, and then you've got Jax, who got a little bit of a nerf, right? But it's still
Mhm.
very, very good.
Mhm.
That people are starting to build items on. But yeah, a lot of people building items on Lux now, which is very interesting. Now that Lux is popular, we're seeing more and more Ghana, which means that Talon might be where people kind of separate themselves from
Yeah.
this Divine, but like Divine Talon could be pretty good,
Right.
right? So yeah, because like any Divine Assassin is probably going to be okay because of the reduced damage,
Mhm.
right? And that's the concern here, but Divine should feel divine, right? And I like the idea of ascending and being bigger and doing true damage. It's
Mhm.
just that's always going to be really true damage, man. Just like they did with red buff
Yep.
and some of our other things with true damage will
Mhm.
consistently be harder to balance than regular numbers.
Yeah. Because there's inherently no counterplay to that. I guess more health is the way to do it. Brawl. Actually, no joke. Our brawler's back in fashion now. Like because that is technically a way to soft counter true damage. Like we don't care about armor. We're just fatter. Like you know.
Yeah, but then they'll build Shiv or Giant Slayer and be fine,
Yeah.
right?
But I
Like
mean, but that's sort of that is the like the back and forth, right? That's kind of the
yeah.
that's I guess the
So
rock paper scissors of it that I think that you want, right? It's like,
uh-huh.
well, we're gonna you're doing true damage. We're gonna counter with brawlers. It's like, well, now I'm gonna start building giant slayers. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go right back to vanguards, and it's like, I guess if you build both static shiv and giant slayer, you're kind of covering it all.
So
But
in this masters lobby, right? Like just to let you know how different things are right now in terms of where the divines are, even on
mhm.
the items that you're building. Crewmex built 2 Chalice of Powers and a Zephyr on his Jax. And then built a
Interesting.
Hextech Gunblade Zeeks and a Rapid Fire Cannon on his Callista. And so another player
Okay.
put 2 shivs on their Warwick, right? Because stacking shivs still works. So it's 175 true damage for 1 shiv, right? So
Yeah.
you've got 2 shivs on the Warwick, 1 on the Lee Sin, right? You got blue buff Quicksilver on Lee Sin, Quicksilver on Warwick, 3 items on Riven, 2 items on Lux, right? You got Jeweled Gauntlet Deathblade on Lux, in second place for this lobby.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, you're just kind of investing these new items, and Divine is kind of like how I would consider it. Third place is 2 Zeeks on Jax with a Shiv on Irelia, right?
Yeah.
Like that is really, really. I mean, it's very interesting. The meta has changed and it is
Yeah.
fluid, but it is very mono-dimensional in what it feels like. You have your 4 divines, and the things that go around it seem to be your choice. Because
Mhm.
the other thing that is, yes, this is only just one lobby that I'm looking at
Right.
right now, but the only person who didn't go divine got eighth, and got
Wow.
eighth by a lot. Right, eighth place got eliminated at 23 minutes in, and then seventh place got eliminated at 29 minutes in. Right, so it
Wow.
wasn't even close,
Yeah.
even with
Multiple
a Jeweled
multiple rounds.
Gauntlet.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeweled Gauntlet, Luden's tier 2 Ari. Right,
Wow.
wasn't
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah, that seems a little bit oppressive. And that actually kind of makes me think because, like, you just listing off those items, it's like, well, that seems kind of busted, right? Like, people are making multiple stag shifts, people are making multiple Zeeks. It's like, man, these items are running rampant. But then I think about it, and it's like, well, in set 3, literally everyone made Infinity Edge, Last Whisper every single game for AD carry, and that was the most
Yep.
popular thing. And it's like, why am I okay with those items? Why do I have like a bias towards those items and not towards Zeke's? I think it's probably because of the like sword plus glove are like those are like higher tier items in my mind, right? And the defensive items are lower tier, I think, just inherently. So seeing like sword plus belt, in my mind, I feel like that should be weaker than sword plus glove, but that's just there's no real reason for that to be. If anything, it just makes your weaker air quotes items better. Like belt is now good now. You can
Hmm.
not feel like complete garbage getting a belt.
Shiv on Warwick sounds disgusting, by the way. Now that I'm
Yeah.
like really thinking about it, like Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Like it's double true damage with him too, because he's divine.
Mm-hmm.
Oof.
Warwick was already pretty
Nasty. But now you're putting
great.
items on him.
I mean, I was putting items on him before, but I was also never playing. I always loved it. I always like to put an Elderwood spat on him and make an Elderwood Warwick, but that was a couple of patches ago that kind of fell out of favor. Kane kind of ruined those things.
Kane got some good tier 1 nerfs, so we're
Yeah,
good on that. And
which
I
is
think the
nice.
reason why we're focusing more everyone on the items here is because the character changes as of right now, I think have created a little bit of a flat meta
Mm-hmm.
versus comparatively to last week's, right?
Mm-hmm.
Last week's was so fluid and flexible,
Yeah,
but we've talked about this before. You can have the perfect patch, but eventually it will get boring,
yeah.
right? And even though it's perfect, it becomes stale. Relationships require work, Blev. And the and so
Says
now
who?
and so now we're moving into a new kind of era
Yeah.
in this set, the world of the divine. And it's very, very interesting on how I think people are going to nab these divine units and who surrounds the divine units, because the one that does appear in every single team comp are Jax and Lux, right?
Wow.
So those are obviously going to be a little bit higher of a priority than they used to be. Not Jax,
Mm-hmm.
but Lux for sure.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering how now, even with the pack changes, how that's going to affect people being
Mm.
able to hit. Maybe we see so many people with these different comps because of those pack changes, right? It allows more people to run the right comp, or allows more people to run divine. And so you could have a top 6 all running divine or something. The
Mm-hmm.
hand holding doesn't seem to be. I mean, when 7 people run the same comp, though, it's
Well,
kind of like the Grinch holding hands around the Christmas tree at that point.
yeah. I think hold on, I want to try this first.
The world of divine.
That works. Um the hand holding, it is a problem. You actually want the hand holding to result in losses, right? You want it to, you ideally, I think in some cases, want it to result in them hand holding at the bottom, right? Not hand holding at the top, because then it's like you just force it no matter what, and you don't actually, scouting doesn't change it. We're holding hands to victory.
Kind of
That's
like
yeah,
me BM no scout,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like that.
yeah,
That's the same thing. Me divine no scout
yeah.
is kind of
Me, yeah,
the fear.
exactly. Me pred, exactly. Which, well, the thing about those is like, the reason you said that was so that other people would be scared into going it, because we'll handhold at the bottom, right? But if 7 people can go divine or 6 people can go divine, and the top 3 are all still, winning, obviously, like the problem is there's too much abundance of good units for that comp, right? There's too many, like, there's too many 1, 2, and 3 costs that can be the core of that comp, because there's enough to go around. If it's like you absolutely need, like Elderwood, for example, it's like I don't think you can't as reasonably Elderwood handhold, because it's like, well, someone's gonna get choked out on ashes, right? And then, I mean, if you consider like the Vigar build different, right? Like if you're going Brawler Ash, you can't really handhold as much with that. You can't have 7 people running Brawler Ash, right? That's the point I'm making. But you can have 7 people running Divine Core, because it's not like, oh, well, you need to hit Lee Sin. It's like, well, Lee Sin's probably a really good extra to add, or Lee Sin's good if you want to do the duelist version, but you don't need Lee Sin. You don't need insert 4 cost carry to go off. It's like I can be great with the core of Lux, Jax, and then throw in Wukong, throw in whoever. I also have Spat. I can also make a Spat item to make anyone. That, I think all of those things combined are why we're seeing, and why we may continue to see, unless they change something, this
World of divine.
Well, I think it's going to be really interesting. So today is the 15th, and so I'll be casting Fight Night in 8 or 9 hours or so, and we'll have the actual answer
Right.
to whether people are going to be bringing this into the competitive space. Because the one thing about these like mono comps, the Mino Scout comps, is they can be countered, right? But how can you counter true damage? And so I think that's
Right.
the biggest thing to think about. I think it's you got to because like how do you counter true damage? True damage,
Right.
right? Is usually how you do it. It really reminds me, and this is why the adept buff kind of scares me too, of how unhealthy Frozen Fist was in set two,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where one side had Frozen Fist, so you just had to build it,
Right. Oh
right?
God,
Or
I
else you
forgot
were
about
just
that item.
like, do you
Yeah.
remember that,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So like
Yep.
you could just and adept could turn that be the same. Well, one person has adept, so do I now have to run an adept
Mm-hmm.
squad, right? Because of that, that's the one thing that I'm scared about. But the way to counter true damage is usually true damage,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the thing that or enhanced damage. So of course, Giant Slayer will definitely help.
Yeah.
Last Whisper won't, right? Because again,
Right.
it's 66% reduced damage.
Right.
Hunters might help you. Um, they start scaling a little bit better, so they got a little bit of a buff. I don't think Moonlight 5 is ever going to be popular. That shit is
It just
expensive.
doesn't seem good, right?
Uh,
Like,
yeah,
especially
exactly.
with
It's
the
like one of those
Felios nerf.
fun.
Yeah.
It's one of those fun reaches, like 9 mages, right? That if you're able to get to 5 and you have enough time and then enough money left over after that to buff up some other units,
Yeah.
then maybe. Mystic getting a slight little buff, so that means Shen got buffed here with Adept and Mystic both getting
Mm-hmm.
buffed, along with Ninja also
Yeah.
getting
Ninja also
buffed.
got buffed. Yeah.
Um, Shades now gain the stealth effect after their third attack. Shade bonus attack damage is actually going up. And then Vanguard 8 now exists. So
Mm-hmm.
those are some class things. Cultists are going to scale per unit now for
More like the mech
Galio.
now. Yeah.
Yep. And then Fortune got a little bit of a birth adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
Fortune 3 got nerfed. Crazy to say that. Um,
Right.
by the way. And then Fortune 6 got buffed.
Yeah.
Ish. And in terms of the champion things that I want to point out before we end here, number one is Nidalee's Javelin Toss getting 10% more damage per hex.
That is
Is
potentially scary, I think.
yeah, but we don't see any. I mean, when they're taking 66% reduced damage, doesn't matter.
True.
Do you see like the thought process
Right.
behind like the divine, and I think why people are frustrated?
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens in like a week though.
Right. Yeah.
Aphelios change you just said. Oh yeah, Teemo's way stronger at tier 2 and tier 1.
Yeah.
Viger got nerfed. Kennen got buffed at tier 3, which is nice. I still think he's going to be weak. Ari got nerfed, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
I think she could probably go lower. But since Spirit got nerfed last patch,
Yeah.
this is probably fine. Riven 3 got nerfed. It's so funny that they're still nerfing the 4 cost tier 3 units,
Yeah.
even though they're going to be much harder to get.
Yeah, they did a
and then
lot of them. Jin as well.
Yeah, and then Zillion Rewind is going to be buffed at tier 2. It is funny though, because if you do get a Zillion tier 3, everyone on your board gets rezzed.
It's
Which is
pretty sweet.
awesome. And a nice little Lilia buff.
Yeah.
Kane nerf and Azir adjustment at level 3. That's the whole thing, friends.
They should make Azir's tier 3 fill your entire board with Sand Warriors.
No, because I already block my corner with my fan soldiers anyway, so they don't attack for the first.
And
10
you should be able to
seconds
sell
of a
them for gold. Was the second part of that.
round.
But yeah, interesting patch, interesting changes. Again, I led the discussion off with I have heard literally both ends of the spectrum today of this is a great patch that brings a lot of changes and brings me a lot of memories from old sets even. And also, holy crap, Divine is broken, needs to be hot fixed. So I think that
all of that tracks.
Those two things aren't mutually exclusive, I don't think. What I will say is change can be good, or at the very least, it can be entertaining and fun. So let us know what you think in the Discord, discord.me/Little Legends podcast. How is your experience going with 1021? What are you liking? What are you not? Is it just
the world of Divine?
Or if you found a counter, post it there and share it with the world so that we can actually start winning some games without Divine as well. But yeah, this was a nice little morning episode for us, Boops, with the casters and chairs talking about Chosens while drinking coffee. Definitely completely original name that's not ripping off anything that Jerry Seinfeld has done. I enjoy. I'm just about out of my coffee, so I think that's time to wrap it up, Boop. Where can people find you when you're not here?
Twitter.com/Boopasaurus Rex. I'm sorry, I don't know why I did that. Twitter.com/Boopasaurus Rex. And you can find me on Giant Slayer TV.
I was just gonna say later today, Twitch.tv/Giant Slayer TV, because you're gonna be casting. I don't know why I did that, but here we are. The coffee is finally starting to kick in. You can find me.
Fun. I love this morning time, by the way.
I love doing things in the morning. I almost want to do it earlier, but I know for reference,
really
we're 2 hours apart. It's not even that early for me. It's pretty early for Boop. And any earlier is really early for Boop and only kind of early for me. But if we're the other way around, doesn't matter. You can find me on the internet, twitter.com/the just the actual underscore. Don't write out underscore. Blevins, B as in boy, LEV as in Victor, INS. I did that to make you feel better, Boop, because I spelled it out even more than you did. You can find the show on Twitter at LIL Legends Pod. And, of course, discord.me/Little Legends Podcast. Post your game-winning comps there. We love to see them. We love to talk trash about them and about just everything. So thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. And we will see you next time in the morning, hopefully, probably, with some more coffee, but definitely some more team fight tactics.